Hello and welcome to the Grow in Pair. We had such a warm week in the UK, and one of the episodes recently, James was very sweaty. So it's episode 17, and is James sweaty today? Hi, James.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good today. But today is a special show. We've got a true aficionado of the podcast joining us. His name is Ben Booth-Tyers. We've actually been mates for 17 years since meeting at uni. He lives up north with his beautiful family. He's an ex-management consultant. And during his time at one of the consultancies, he underwent some life coaching. And he's here today to kind of share his experience and, talk all things life coaching and self-development with us. So welcome, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
Thank you so much, guys. Got to say, it's an absolute pleasure to be invited onto the show, but to get my first experience of being on a podcast. As I was just saying before, I've listened to actually every single show that James has been on. A big fan. I didn't intend to. I started off just going, I'll just listen to one. And then I just found myself just being hooked by one. It's just it's actually a really nice kind of environment between the two of you. But then the topics you were talking about, I was like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about something like that. Or it made me think as I was, driving to or from work or whatever it was. Before I knew it, I'd got like 10 episodes in and I was like, oh, well, I should text James and I should try to finish the show.
Do you remember which was your favorite?
Really don't put him on the spotlight. Don't put him on the spotlight. Bless him.
No, actually, I can answer the question. I think the one that I got hooked on was you were talking about money. And I was thinking, God, that must be so difficult, just trying to start out being a life coach. And then you were talking about all that stuff about our dependencies on these big corporate careers and the fears of like moving away from it, and then the relationship with money. I was like, oh, that's such an interesting thing. That was something I've been thinking about. And then you did an episode on shame. Found it really moving that you were so open about it, but so confronting what you'd experienced and what it made you feel, but then how you should therefore act as a result of that and kind of being conscious of it. Again, I was like properly like taken with that one. And then there was an episode on confidence, and you called it challenge versus confidence, I think, in the title. And it's something which I've always thought a lot about, actually, the importance of confidence in yourself and in other people, and how other people view you and how you view yourself and all that sort of stuff, and how confidence can actually be faked and all this, all this sort of stuff. And again, it was just such an interesting
James,
topic.
we should have invited Ben to our reflection episode because he's doing much better job than you.
Wow.
No, I mean, it's really nice to hear that, because James and I, when we record this, we don't really know who is listening to it and who is out there. And I got a message just today from a lady that said, your episode about reality took me by surprise. It made me really think about that word.
I like that one.
So I guess what we bring to this is ourselves and our raw ourselves. So what are we talking about today then?
Let's start with Ben. You mentioned you had your own life coaching back at one of your consultancies, so I thought it was worth starting there. Like, what did you learn? What would you say are the benefits to anyone out there who's just a normal Joe, average Joe, sorry, that might be interested in exploring life coaching or something similar?
The context was the company I worked for, the consultancy I worked for, organized life coaching for a few people at kind of like a middle-ish level as a way of kind of unlocking future potential. That was the premise. The fact that it was my company that organized it meant that I actually did life coaching. I probably would never have done it otherwise. But two, it made it company thing. One of my reflections, actually, one of those things you think about for years afterwards, right? And you go, there was a really amazing opportunity and I got a lot from it. It didn't unlock what it was supposed to. And I was trying to reflect on why. Because the guy was brilliant. Yeah, I did it in all the right ways, asked all the open questions we needed to, pushed me when he needed to, all of that. And I realized I hadn't been honest with him. Partially, I probably wasn't being fully honest with myself, but what I was really scared of was things coming back to my company, like to HR or whatever. And I realized that therefore meant I had to present a version of myself that I wanted my company or whoever to see. And that meant that I wasn't actually then being honest in terms of actually what my challenges were and what I really wanted to get out of it. Because in reality, I actually was hating consultancy at the time, and I've got out of consultancy since. And I didn't want to admit, I'm really hating this life and and I've covered all these insecurities and all this sort of stuff. And and I wish I had done now, because maybe it would have been an opportunity for me to challenge myself and actually leave that career a lot earlier than I did.
But it sounds to me like you do remember that as a life-changing moment, i.e. a positive moment, even though you're
Absolutely.
saying that it's not, you were not
Yeah.
really honest.
How often do you get an opportunity to actually sit back and reflect on your thoughts and feelings that are just the stuff that you kind of keep under the surface and you almost try not to bubble up, and actually sit back and go, well, where do I want to go and what stopped me from getting there? And what actions do I need to take to get to this objective? And I don't even know what my objective is. And I said the guy I had was absolutely fantastic at not judging, asking questions, like coaching in this truest sense of the word. He wasn't trying to teach. He wasn't trying to tell me this the way to. It wasn't mentoring, right?
Yeah.
It was properly coaching. Obviously, the objective of coaching is that you work it out for yourself with someone's help, and that's always the right way of making any sort of change. I think so you have to realize it yourself, and you have to make those decisions. And what I've said. So that's the thing that I really took from Isaac. To answer your question, is that realization that it has to come from me. I have to then identify the causes, and I have to understand what it is that I need to do differently. And it's on me to then do those actions. That changed my mentality massively from being this is not the right word, a victim. I decided I wasn't going to be a victim to the movements of the company or the world around me or whatever. I would always try to be on the front foot, whatever was happening around me. And I would always try to be like in charge, responsible for my own life. I was made redundant at one point. I remember feeling like very much a victim to that whole process and I found it very destabilizing. But I think if I was to go through it now, what that period of life coaching taught me was you are responsible for yourself, and how you react to those situations is what defines how, whether it's going to be an awful or a positive thing for you.
Have you done Ben therapy?
No, I haven't.
So what you're raising now, it's quite an interesting point about why life coaching is really, really good. Because when you go into therapy process, you are going to the past. You're opening the box of the past, and you dig in there as much as you want, and as much as you want to be honest with it. You dig in and see what shaped you to who you are now, and then based on that you can maybe plan the actions for the future you. While life coaching is all about what's happening to you now and how can we take you to the future. And sometimes we do need to check what happened in that box, but that's not the main thing there. The main thing is what's happened to you now and how to take you forward. So you talked a lot about victim feeling, I stopped being victim, and you talked about how do I respond to things, how I used to respond, and how now I'm working on myself to respond to new things.
I was intrigued in the part you mentioned, Ben. I like how me and Isaac are both like jumping at asking you questions here.
We see a target, and
yeah, we were both like dogs, just straight on you.
God, what have I got myself in for?
Yeah. Fact that you mentioned, I do get your point, and it was in the training, Isaac, as well, that we did. With corporate coaching, there is that sometimes the person being coached does feel a little bit afraid of completely opening up. And it's kind of up to the coach to manage that in terms of confidentiality and being kind of very transparent with you, Ben, what gets fed, what doesn't, because obviously in that situation, you want to be able to say the things you want to say and get the most out of that life coaching. So that's quite an interesting point, and one to any other life coaches out there, like interested to see how you manage that well so that someone can be fully themselves in those sessions. And then the second thing is, what I heard there was you ideally probably wanted to talk about how you weren't enjoying management consulting. And you could have got a lot of kind of help there from the life coaching, but you didn't. So yeah, I'm intrigued as to, you mentioned you kind of didn't do that, so you kind of weren't being true to yourself and giving the right answer. What did you come up with then as a kind of a fake goal, let's say?
Well, now I'm going to
not to make you feel bad, but I understand why you did it 100%. But it's interesting to see.
I think we had to share what the targets were back to HR as well. So the first session you agreed to 3 or 4 targets, what you wanted to achieve the other sessions, and you worked towards them, and over the time. And I think HR wanted to see effectively what the value of their investment into this process was. That also means that these targets are going to be seen, right?
I'm now challenging that and questioning the whole process. Because the moment HR involved, of course you will be in a vulnerable position. If I need to feed them, what if your target in that coaching session was, I want to find a bloody new job.
Mm.
I want to be in a different place. And that, does it mean that you cannot use that specific coach that was offered you in that place?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. To answer James' question, they were real targets, but they weren't, life-changing.
Yeah, they were like maybe nice to have things that you kind of would like to work on, but not.
Yeah,
key.
like how to procrastinate less, for example. And that, by the way, that was a good episode as well.
But again, I would challenge that, because when you touch up to procrastinate less, it needs to go deep down to your real goals and your real limited belief and your real what's stopping you from doing whatever it is you're doing. Now that you're sharing your story, Ben, and thank you so much for it, how does it really work with the coaching in corporate?
There are benefits to having I do strongly believe there are benefits to having a limited scope to it, right? Being like, this isn't your maybe full life coaching, maybe this is your
it's better than not
coaching.
It's better than not having it.
Yeah,
I
think there's
challenge
definite value.
that. I challenge that, because it's like you're saying, no, you go to a therapy, but halfway through therapy or a quarter through therapy. A real coaching process is something that you, as a coachee, voluntarily decides to go through. And you are willing to open up honestly and really work on the stuff. You remember that as that process as, yeah, it was I learned what life coaching is, but I was not really honest with it. I was not really going through the real process. Have you done a proper life coaching after?
I haven't, no. And actually, it's something which, again, listening to this podcast kind of brings all those things that experience I had, and when I first heard that James was looking to go into life coaching, just almost bringing up the word life coaching makes you go, oh yeah, there was that thing, and there's the experience I had, and then reflecting on it, then listening to your podcast, and it goes, oh, actually, yes, you get to address all of these kind of topics or whatever is relevant to you. And it's definitely something which I'm now quite strongly considering. The challenge I now have, Isaac, is fitting life coaching into the busy life that we all have. I've got a daughter, I've got a full-time job and all that sort of stuff. And so it becomes, well, where does it fit in my life when there's all these other things I'd also like to do?
So let me ask you this. Why do people go to life coaching?
Because they feel that something is holding them back, probably from being someone who they want to be. And what life coaching, at least my view, is that helps them define what that is, what those targets are, helps them identify what's holding them back, and the steps they need to take to whether the end goal is actually being more satisfied with their life or being happier. If you think of it at a high level, what you're actually trying to achieve.
What would you answer on that, James?
I'd simplify it. My view is it's for people that want to do something, whether that be achieve or change something, but they don't know how to do it themselves, essentially, is how it is. And the life coach helps them get over whatever it is, stopping them doing it themselves. What about you, Isaac?
I think that people can answer very easily, why would they go to therapy? I think people will struggle to answer, why would they go to a life coach? And that's part of why this podcast exists. Because until I faced what life coaching is, I didn't know. I really didn't know. I didn't know what it means. So when I started the studies and all of that, and I went to the introduction day and they explained me what life coaching is, and I'm like, oh, so I've done so many years of therapy and I've never explored life coaching, and it makes so much sense. So for me, again, it's the forward looking. It's I have a goal. I have something I would like to do. So if, Ben, you have something you would like to achieve in 3, 4, 5 years, you're saying, this is something I see myself in the future. Life coaching can help you. And you're saying to me, how do I fit it in my day-to-day life? If this is important to you, you will find a way.
One of the things I've been thinking about is, as you're talking the difference between therapy and life coaching, because actually, this thought came to me when I was listening to one of your podcasts. It's the difference between therapy, life coaching, and mentoring. Probably one of the reasons why I haven't gone, right, I need to do life coaching is what I probably need is some amazing combination of all three, to be honest. Deal with whatever childhood trauma I don't know about, and or the
have a chat with me then, Ben.
But yeah, the life coaching, which is probably the most quickest and also kind of most effective way of actually making changes and doing whatever it is you want to, achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. I view mentoring, and I'd love to get your view on this, Isaac. Is mentoring like where someone actually tells you, and maybe they're an example of that, maybe this sort of person you want to become like, and they can say, well, I did these steps, and they kind of give you information. Is that
it'd be more I would do this, or you should
Yeah.
try that.
Oh, so it's their
As
views
life
on the
coaches,
answers.
we are not allowed to give you an advice. But at some point,
Right.
sometimes we can ask you as our client, is it okay with you that I'll share my own experience? Now, I'm not saying to you that's what you should do, but I'm just sharing with you my own experience. Okay. Usually it's not what we're supposed to do in life coaching. And we believe as life coaches that all the answers are within you. And what's missing is two things. One is a soundboard to allow you to speak in a place with no judgmental, no bias, just to speak whatever comes to your mind. And a lot of times when I spoke to clients, the moment they spoke, more and more things came into their mind, new things that they didn't think about before they started to speak. So that's one thing. Second thing is open, challenging questions. I'm usually very good in hearing what the client doesn't say. So I'm asking questions based on an answer that they gave me, but there was something hidden there in that answer. So I'm asking, and they look at me like, "Oh, that's an interesting one," and then I know, yeah, I hit the right spot.
So with my experience, and I was deliberately holding things back, should the life coach have been asking questions, identified he's clearly not, and then ask questions to get to the bottom of it? It's up to me to establish the boundaries of what I'm willing to talk about or not. Is that right? Or is it a case of actually you should come to life coaching with the view of everything's on the table?
James, you can answer because I spoke a lot in this.
Yeah, I would say if I'm a coach, you get intuition if the person you're speaking to is holding something back, or you feel that the goal isn't what they're saying isn't, the crux of where their kind of issue is. Again, I don't know that conversation. I don't know the life coach. They might have been following a set structure plan that they have, but I would like to think that in that situation, you might pick up on the intuition and you would keep delving until you as the coach feel comfortable that you've found the root cause of why this is an issue for them, or what the issue is for them, and what's stopping them solving the issue themselves.
Yeah.
That would be my take. And just quickly as well, you mentioned mentoring. I would say mentoring is the quickest way to get to your goal. So let's say
Or at least an answer, maybe, rather than actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you want to start a company, you can get a mentor. They'll tell you do this, start that, and in a couple of months you could be launched, or a couple of weeks. Life coaching, I'm not saying it can't be quicker, but you're going to find the answers yourself, and you're going to have to do a lot of the work and kind of thinking yourself. So potentially that could take a long time. And like Isaac said, you'll learn something about yourself, and it's the long-term benefits you're going to gain from that. Those are going to be insights and skills that you form yourself rather than someone telling you the answer. So it's like longevity of benefits, sustainability.
What I really like about the idea of life coaching is that it's actually better if the life coach doesn't have the concept, doesn't have the kind of the knowledge or the whatever.
Yeah.
Because that must be quite difficult if you I've been through that exact same situation. I really want to share my experience, right?
For sure.
And actually someone who doesn't know and is able just to ask those open and closed questions at the right times, the challenging questions. Yeah. Yes, they're objective, exactly. The coachee, if that's the right word, doesn't feel judged and is able to be like, yes, this is my answer to this. I've come up with this. And I do think that's a big motivated to then actually delivering as the back end of it.
As you were speaking and as James was speaking, I was imagining myself in front of you in that coaching session, and as me as a coach identifying that maybe you're not being honest with me. I would have had to put that aside, and I would have had to let you be you, because coaching is a place where there is no bias, we are no judging. So whatever you bring, this is what it is. That's what I need to work with. So I probably would have dug down on the topic you brought, and maybe would get to a point where you said, you know what, I was not completely honest, and then you shared whatever, or you carry on and moving, with the other stuff, or carry on with this story you made up in your mind. I think, James, this is the first time we actually really drill down in the whole aspect of life coaching. Every now and then we kind of bring that aspect, but this episode, thanks to Ben, we talked a lot about the life coaching as process, and I think we're running out of time, and it was such an interesting conversation. So of course, if you like this podcast, share, like, comment, do whatever you need to do in order to help us to grow. the growing pair. So we have a tradition here, Ben, as you know. We are picking 2 things we are taking from today's episode, and I will start with you, Ben.
To really question for myself how much I really want to do, whether it is mentoring, life coaching, or therapy, and I think it is life coaching, and then to make time for it. I need to put a lot more thought into it, but that is definitely something that I could do with, I think, at this point in my life. Sorry, it's only one thing, but I think that's a pretty big thing to take away from a from a
And maybe that's your action item. It's, without meaning, you got a bit of a coaching session here. James, what are you taking from today?
The first thing is kind of how you need to be careful with corporate coaching. It's, tough to operate in the true coaching boundaries while also keeping in mind the corporate objectives as well. And it was kind of interesting to hear Ben's experience of that and whether that is actually quite common in the practice. The second thing is, I think it's really great when we have a guest who just unloads a lot of experience and info to our sides, because we have we could have talked for ages on this podcast, way more, because there was a lot of things that I wanted to pick up as well on what you said, Ben. So it's kind of nice having a fresh meat to kind of feed off on this podcast.
Well, I'm very tempted to ask you, Ben, how does it make you feel when James call you fresh meat? But we'll leave it for another time. We might invite you for a second visit. Who knows, Ben? Who knows?
Well, I just got to say thank you so much for letting me vent and clearly unload onto you guys. I've absolutely loved it. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. And I will just summarize with my 2 things, and definitely the corporate one that you said, Ben. It kind of made me reevaluate the whole thing. You shared with us a personal feeling about the whole process. The organizations think they are doing justice to the employees by subsidizing life coaching, but are they really doing justice to life coaching process? I'm not sure. This is something that I'm taking away from this. And the second thing, I'm thinking a lot about the honesty part. And what would happen if a client in front of me sharing with me something, and I'm recognizing, is that client being honest? Now, how would I play along with it without showing any judgment or bias? And probably there is a reason why. So my role as a coach would be to try to figure out what's really happening with that client, that the client feels that it doesn't or can't be honest with me. Thank you so much, Ben. It was a pleasure to have you. And James, good to see you as always. And until next time, see you guys very, very soon.
And anyone else who wants to be a guest, just let us know.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.